How you doing? Hey, man. Glad you guys are here, man. Thank you. Thank you. I know this old guy, you know. Him and I, how you doing? Him and I go back, we used to work together. What's going on, brother? Hey, man. Thank you for coming here. I'm gonna get up here and do my thing. All right.
And you can still stand with it, just stand in the back. You can
Yeah, I
still
don't
stand.
have my uniform on.
Well, you stand in the back, you hide from it.
They still want you in the picture.
Yeah.
We like everybody to come get in the picture if possible.
Well, I'll come down and get the picture as soon as they get up there. I'll stand in the back.
They live all over the county, that's why I said that. Not one certain county. Yeah. Okay, all right, but I got those out.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Always.
I'm part of it. I got it. Yeah.
That's a handsome dude right there.
All you didn't recognize you all the way in the back.
You're sharp too.
Road developed. I had to look hard at you. I said, no, he in there somewhere. He's so clean, I didn't recognize him.
The house cheaper. Or that being done in something else. Your thumb. he's doing a lot of property out on Patriot Parkway. My son played for him for 5 years.
Yes, ma'am.
40. Getting old. We're getting old. Don't seem like it.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. That's a lot better. It's a nice chilly evening. I now see on both of my clocks on the computers that it is now 6 a.m. I'd like to call, how many? 6 p.m. It's been a long day. I'd like to call the Tuesday, November 23rd regular meeting of Sumter County Council to order. Ms. B, would you please give us an invocation? Let us stand and please remain standing for the pledge of allegiance.
Let's pray. Our dear kind Heavenly Father, we do thank you for this beautiful day, this seasonal day, and we thank you for bringing us to this season of the year where we are so grateful for Thanksgiving and the remaining holiday season of this year on out to the new year. We thank you for just helping us to survive during the pandemic, that we're now able to meet in person again, and the numbers of those affected are declining. We ask that you continue to be with those who have lost loved ones and those who are still struggling. There are a lot of people who are hurting, and we just ask that you be with them and let them know that they can find comfort in you. And as we go through the agenda that has been placed before us, we ask that you help us to have wisdom, understanding, and clarity of mind. We ask a special blessing upon our guests this evening, and we ask that you continue to bless them and their families, all men and women in uniform who have served and are still serving, especially those who are serving in harm's way. Help them to feel your presence and to also know that they are not alone. And as we come to the end of our agenda and are ready to leave this place, we ask that you will always be with us and keep us safe. These and all blessings we thank and ask in your holy and righteous name. Amen.
Amen.
The Sumter County, South Carolina Combat Veterans Group operates as a nonprofit organization established February 2011. The purpose of the Sumter, South Carolina Combat Veterans Group is to establish with a promise to ourselves and area veterans that made it home from the battlefields of war and conflicts to never let people forget and forever recognize us as an official association to give moral support and encouragement when needed, to be a good Samaritan to our area veterans and our faith-based community. The members live all over Sumter County. Thank you all for your service.
Group, attention, present all. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Order, hold.
Hold on just a second, please. We got one.
We thank you so much for your service, and I'm hopeful on behalf of County Council that you will accept this small recognition and certificate, and if you would allow me, I'd like to read it to you. It says, Certificate of Appreciation, United States Veterans, South Carolina Combat Veterans Group, in recognition of your tireless efforts in support of our United States Armed Forces. Your dedication to our country and its military is commendable and is honorable addition to the fight for freedom throughout the world. Thank you, all who served Sumter County Council and Sumter County Veterans Affairs. And of course, you are familiar with Veterans Affairs. I always like to say we have the best director in the state with Ms. Brunson. So you're in absolute good hands. If you would like, I would like to present this to you. Okay, Jay? It should have been on this side.
Okay.
There you go.
Turn around. There we go.
There we go. Good?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for your service.
Thank you for your service.
We appreciate this, and thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Mr. Manning, are there any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes.
Move for approval, Mr. Chairman. And moved by Mr. Bacon, seconded by Mr. Baker, that we approve the agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
I have a motion to approve the minutes from our regular meeting for Tuesday, November the 9th, and our special meeting for Tuesday, November the 9th as well. Move for approval. Moved by Mr. Baker, seconded by Mr. McGaney, that we approve the regular meeting minutes from November 9th and special meeting minutes from Tuesday, November 9th. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? All opposed? It's approved. Land use matters, RZ 2120. Ms. Ruby.
Good evening, Helen Rudman for planning staff. RZ 2120 is a request at 6830 Fish Road. The applicant is Ms. Charlene Avant as the property owner. This request is to rezone approximately 2.71 acres of property from agricultural conservation to residential 15. This is the property in question. It is at the corner of Fish Road and North Kings Highway on the south side of the east intersection. 2020 aerial photography shows that it is currently an undeveloped tract. Historically, this property had been used as paddocks, so it remains undeveloped to this day. It is in proximity of a variety of housing options that have lots that range from about 0.65 acres up beyond an acre in size. This tract, as is everything around it, is zoned agricultural conservation. The minimum lot size in the AC zoning district is actually 1 acre. One of the reasons the applicant's requesting this rezoning is so that the lot could be subdivided into tracts that are smaller than an acre. Of course, the size of the tracts would be dictated by zoning district minimum requirements for any future district that it's in, as well as the requirement that it would have to perk for septic tanks. This is how the property looks today as in addition to the property around it. The property that you see on the left is the stuff across the street. The image on the right is currently the way the tract exists today. When we look at rezoning requests, we actually look at the comprehensive land use plan and our guiding documents to see whether a request is compatible. This property is in the Rural Development Planning District. Ordinarily, the rural development area is not supportive of less than an acre lot sizes, simply because in this area we do not have infrastructure in terms of sewer and water to support higher density development. In this particular instance, we do have some mitigating factors in that there is an existing pattern of development in proximity of lots that are already less than an acre in size, and it is at a key intersection with the primary arterial road. So while it is supportive of low density development of 1 acre or greater, this request is not dissimilar from what's already happening around it. If it is successfully rezoned, this is the maximum lot yield in accordance with the R15 development standards that the property would yield. This is done to scale. The minimum lot width in the R15 district is actually 100 feet. The minimum lot width in the agricultural zoning district is actually 60 feet. So each of these lots range from a little over ½ an acre to larger, totaling 2.71 acres. And just to kind of put that into perspective, I've overlaid it on the aerial photography in relation to the existing tracts in the area to see kind of how that aligns with what else you see. The applicant did provide some examples of the types of homes that they intend to build if the property is successfully rezoned. These houses are approximately 1,400 to 1,500 square feet with attached garages, and they are each at least 3-bedroom houses. Planning Commission did recommend approval of this request. They do believe that the existing pattern of development around the site includes single-family residential lots that are as small as 0.65 acres. Given the absence of public sewer service in the area and the overall dimensions of the existing tract, the new lot sizes on the subject property are not anticipated to be any smaller than ½ an acre. The R15 zoning district is actually the least intensive residential zoning district and the most restrictive residential zoning district that can be requested for this property. The R15 zoning district actually only allows single-family construction. It doesn't allow manufactured homes, and it doesn't allow multi-tenant buildings. While it's not expressly supported for the 2040 comprehensive plan, it is practical and consistent with the existing pattern of development and proximity. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to recognize.
Yes, sir. Mr. White.
Ms. Rudman, do you have any pictures of the, excuse me. I'm sorry, Ms. Rudman, is that better?
Yeah.
Do you have any pictures of the adjacent properties that would be next to the proposed development that you could show us?
And not in this presentation, sir, I do not.
Okay. Can you tell us about the two houses that will be in between the proposed development? How large the houses are, you know?
Are you talking
Price
about what
range.
the applicant's proposing?
No, adjacent to where the proposed site is.
I suspect that based on, I'm going to look at Geological, the house that you see in this image immediately to the right, based on that aerial photography, probably if it's a single-story structure and if memory serves, it is, looks to be at least 2,500 square feet.
It's 3,000 square feet.
I'm looking at an aerial photography, so based on that. And then the stuff across the street is actually, that stuff's probably around 1,500 to 2,000 square feet to the
A
north.
little larger, right. So one of those houses is owned by Grand Span, and the other is owned by Leonard Hopkins. And I'm just wondering, was there any conversation with them prior to the site being proposed?
Not by planning staff, but as a matter of course, we generally don't speak directly to adjacent property owners. That happens when we mail out public notices for the public hearing. I have not heard from anybody except specifically Ms. Orispan. I spoke to her extensively, but I've not had any individual conversations with any other property owners.
One other question for you, Ms. Rubin. When the Planning Commission met and took action on this issue, was the entire Planning Commission present?
I really don't recall.
According to the minutes, the entire Planning Commission was not present. In fact, the Planning Commissioner from that area was not at that meeting, which would be Mr. Sumter. That's what the minutes say. I was just curious as to the timing of all of that and whether or not he had an opportunity to weigh in on this issue and possibly why it wasn't delayed since he wasn't there and it happens to be in his former area.
Planning Commission members are appointed as at-large service members, so they represent the entire community.
Sure.
Mr. Sumter was mailed notice of the meeting a week beforehand with the staff reports and information. He was called the day before the meeting to confirm attendance. He did not come.
Sure. Mr. Sumter's mother is being hospitalized, and so he was attending to that matter. And so I was just interested in knowing why the meeting possibly wasn't postponed, since clearly he's a resident of that area and he would have a lot of intel about that particular area. In fact, he was involved in the prior issue when Fish Road was attempted to be rezoned for a Dollar General, and the community was in opposition to that development as well. I just thought it was curious that it wasn't postponed or he wasn't consulted, and he gets a pass because his mother was ill.
The Planning Commission meets on a monthly basis. It is a 9-member body. A minimum of 5 members must be present for the meeting to take place. They are simply a recommending body for rezoning actions, which is what brings it forward to council so that they can have these deeper discussions where constituency issues are addressed. It's not a matter of practice for Planning Commission to postpone meetings simply because of the absence of 1, 2, or even 4 members, as long as we have a quorum.
Right. It was just my impression that since there had been some problems at this site before with the Dollar General that he was involved in, it might have been nice to maybe postpone it until he was there, because he probably could have provided some more detailed and in-depth information about the community of the site. It's just an observation on my part. It's not an accusation, it's an observation.
Ms. Roman, can you go back to that photo?
You want the picture of the house or the
That-
aerial?
that-
This one? Yes, sir.
I think everybody in here knows that I do my due diligence. I don't take anybody's word for anything. Having talked to the residents in the area, it came to my attention some things that I know based on investigation now does not apply to the plot of land that we are currently getting ready to vote on. But you mentioned the fact that the lots across the street are of similar size. It came to my attention that all of the properties along Fish Road were subject to restrictive covenants by the former owner, Mr. George M. Sanders. And I have a copy of those restrictive covenants here. The houses across the street were of a minimum of acre lots as per the restrictive covenants. In order for them to subdivide those lots into the configuration that you currently see, they had to get permission from Mr. Sanders to subdivide those lots. And I have a copy of that permission as well. And I think that one of the points that some of the neighbors, most of the neighbors that I talked to are concerned about is their properties are subject to those restrictive covenants. It's on the deeds. Now I understand when I brought this information back that due diligence was done and we were not able to find out where any of those covenants recently applies to this property. But they're of the opinion that they can't do anything with their properties because they can't subdivide them because of what's on the deed having to do with these restrictive covenants. And I think that is one of the points that they've been trying to make. And I just wanted to bring that out.
Valid point.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I want to thank you for raising that point. I think the deeper point with that is that this community, from the very inception, going back to 1982, did not intend for this community to be developed like it is being proposed to be developed. And I want everyone to understand, in order for this development to happen, there has to be a zoning change because the property does not currently allow that kind of development. And what's interesting to me is that we always want to experiment in rural communities. We always want to experiment with the rural folks. This is not appropriately zoned for what's being done. The Planning Commission, and I'm not sure why the Planning Commission even sent this up. It never should have gotten out of the Planning Commission. But the process that they are using without consulting the community, I understand we're having a public hearing and we'll allow a couple of people to stand up and say a couple of words and then we're going to take our vote. But these people have asked not to be steamrolled by this county. And I think we ought to respect that. We understand that development is coming, and we have talked about that internally, but there is a way to do that. And we are prepared to meet with the Planning Commission to talk about how development needs to go in our area. And by the way, most of the properties in this area are heir properties, which means they've been handed down through the generations. As the property that I own, it was handed down by my family. They didn't necessarily choose this area, but this is the area where they were deeded property. And we should be just as careful in District 1 as we are in District 4, District 3, District 2, District 7, and District 6. So I thank you for raising that point, Mr. Chairman, but it's because it was clearly not the intent. And Ms. Rubin, I want to thank you for your comments as well, because at the last meeting, you clearly stated and made it very clear, and I thank you for that. And I read, as a matter of policy, the rural development planning area is supportive of low density, 1 acre minimum lot size or greater residential development. And then you went on to say a little bit later that this project is not expressly supported by the 2040 comp plan, which I have a copy of. And this is what we use for development. It's not in compliance with that. There's no reason we should even be having this conversation tonight, quite frankly. Now, I know we're about to have a public meeting, so I'm going to conclude my comments for now because I know that others want to speak. Mr. Chairman, I thank you for the time.
Any other questions or comments by other members of council? Thank you, Ms. Rubin.
Mr. Chair, I'll say that I received some calls as well, and of course, I like to be able to make informed decisions, and I was obliged to be able to go out and visit the community to be able to see for myself what was explained, and what I found was that the property, as we can see it on the map, the gentleman that lives in that house in the lot right adjacent to the 4 proposed development properties there, parcels there, he complied with the 2040 plan. He, whereas it would have required him to place his house on 1 acre, he went an extra mile and actually has his house on 2 acres. And he's really humbly asking us to not change the precedent that has been established. And thank you. I just wanted to let you know that I went out there to obtain that information.
Okay, Ms. Rubin, thank you. Prior to having second reading, we will have a public hearing. I will ask if there's anyone who is opposed to this rezoning request, please come to the podium, state your name for the records, and then I will ask if there's anyone in favor once we have heard from all those that are not in favor. I now declare the public hearing open. Anyone speaking, want to speak against this rezoning request, please come to the microphone, state your name for the record.
Gwendolyn C. Floyd. I live on North Kings Highway, the area that was considered, and it has been zoned for the Dollar General. And again, you're coming into communities with plans that the community really, people live there, do not want. Again, as I stated before, we need recreation. We need activities and things for our children, for our elderly, a safe place to walk, to do, that we don't have to come all the way downtown for. And looking at this map, for those of you who have been out to the area, where the proposed intersection of Fish Road and North Kings Highway is a hill. And if you put houses there, traffic coming down, it's a narrow escape with the trucks loaded down. They just cannot stop because someone is pulling out from Fish Road. By the land being cleared, you can see, because you know the highways do not get cut. We don't have sidewalks. And it's very dangerous to put any type of building there that will obstruct the view of someone turning out, because those trucks do not stop on a dime. So again, I speak in opposition of this proposal to build those 4 units at that lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Floyd.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Dr. Ora Spann. I am the sister of Ransom Spann. I live on Highway 261, right down from Fish Road. I've lived there all my life. And we have heirs property and all the other kinds of things that were so eloquently spoken of. I'm here to ask that you help this to remain a development, or the development itself to not come in and to remain under the comprehensive plan. I've spoken to this body once before about this comprehensive plan. If we're going to put one in place, then we need to adhere to it. There are two other things I want to share with you just before I sit, and that is that if you go down to Dakin Mill Road on Easy Street, a development occurred there. People have lived there 80, 85 years, all kinds of heirs property. And this council allowed for a development to come in and put in housing for mobile homes, and now they're building 130, 150 onto $200,000 homes on a red dirt road with chickens and all that stuff. The people down there have received 2 citations for their chickens. And I say to you all, what's going to happen when the wild hogs come out? Because that's what's going to happen. That's what we're doing. And that's why we need to step back and look at this development issue. Another reason has to do with this plan. I developed this plan along with the community years ago. And this body made us put 1 acre of land or more on this development. And it is out on 521. There's land out there that can be developed if we do it properly. Another piece has to do with a recent development that I put together. And the county made me put it on 1.68 acres of land, small building, then 1.6 acres more, another building, and you stuck by the plan. And I'm just asking you today, for my brother's sake, and for the sake of that community, and the sake of people like myself who use Fish Road to get to Shaw Air Force Base, for you all to let it remain in the comprehensive plan with the 1 acre per house. We're not against development. And we thank you all for all that you do for our community. But you need to come out and look at these things before you make the decision to divide them. Thank you. If you have any questions of me, feel free to call me. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Spann. Anyone else want you to speak against this rezoning request?
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
My name is David Rivers. I have a lot of family that live along Fish Road. All that I've talked to are totally against this plan. I think the first person that spoke brought up a valid point. You've got a hill at the end of Fish Road coming out Case Highway. If you develop that, you're only creating a hazard, so to speak. You're talking about an area that's accident prone. I've lived in Sumter County all my life. My mother lived along Fish Road. My grandmother had an accident on the end of that highway because of that hill. And as she was pointing out, you have 18-wheelers coming down Kings Highway. When they come across that hill, that's a total mess. Okay? And if you develop that corner, you're going to clear the hazard. Are there any questions concerning what I said? But I hope you would really reconsider that property. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rivers. Anyone else wishing to speak against this rezoning request? Hearing none, anyone wishing to speak for the rezoning request, please come to the mic and please state your name for the record.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Council. My name is Frank Schuler. I'm a local attorney. I've been practicing law. See if I can just drop that on the floor. I've been practicing law in Sumter for 29 years. I'm here on behalf of Ms. Charlene Avant, who is here. She's the owner of Avant and Associates Realty Company, as well as Avant Construction Company. Her son David, raise your hand, David, heads up her construction side of things. And so obviously we've heard discussion regarding the development of this property and whether or not this property should be held within the constraints of the comprehensive plan. And I want to make abundantly clear, as y'all know, to other folks, the comprehensive plan is not an edict, it's not an order, it is a guide that council uses to help put the best foot of Sumter forward. That as we do develop our properties, that we're doing that in a thoughtful, logical purpose. And that's what Ms. Avant is trying to do. She's trying to use this property to construct these 4 homes, and we saw the pictures of these 4 homes that are nice looking homes, and their price point is to allow folks that can't afford the $200,000 to $300,000 to $400,000 homes. And as a real estate attorney, I know that we have a hole in our market for those type of houses at that price point. And so this is something that would be beneficial to the whole Sumter community. The other thing that was brought up were restrictive covenants. I did the title work when Ms. Avant bought this property. There are no restrictive covenants that apply to the property that we're talking about. Before, there were some restrictive covenants on the property that is across the street on Fish Road. And those covenants did provide for at least 1 acre lots. But I would point out that on the corner of Kings Highway and Fish Road, talking about the property across the street, the first lot is 0.8 acres. The next lot is 0.67 acres. The next lot is 0.71 acres. And the next lot is 0.74 acres. So all of those are under the 1 acre, and they have single family homes on those pieces of property. And there's some folks here that are going to speak that are in want this to be approved that own the property across the street. Okay, so it's not the entire community that is opposed to this project. And we're not talking about an experimental project here. We saw the pictures of these houses. These aren't experimental homes and new mod and whatever fandangled type of things. These are your principal constructed brick and siding homes that have nice curb appeal and that will allow the property values to go up. I know tax revenue is an interesting county council because we're always short. She could develop 2 houses, but 2 houses would need to come here and ask for approval. But you put 4 houses there, then you have double the tax revenue coming in on this property. Okay. As far as the safety is concerned, and I appreciate that. I don't live out there. I'm not familiar with the hill, but you got houses on the other side and trees and brush and all that. That is probably obstructing the view also. That's a typical situation in just about any neighborhood or community. You're pulling out of a side road onto a main road that you're going to have possible serious accidents and what have you. But I don't think that should hold up this project. There was a question about Mr. Span's house. His square footage is 2,883 square feet. Tax assessed value is $215,000. The price point on these houses that Ms. Avant wants to build around the $160,000 value. So I don't see that it would detract or take away from Mr. Span's property value by putting in these houses. In fact, if you look at the houses that are around the community, you know, they're going to be a higher price point than that. If you go down North Kings Highway, maybe a mile and a half, there's a recent development. Again, There are 4 lots, they're all under 1 acre, and there was no, objection to those being developed. So by restricting her, basically you're taken away from her ability to use the property to the highest and best use. And as a business person, she's trying to provide a product that is available, that people can afford, that has nice curb appeal and built with good construction. So that's why we're asking for you to approve her request.
Thank you, Mr. Schuler.
Mr. Chairman, is the council prepared to take any questions? Is that allowable?
No.
Then I'd like to raise some issues that are at a later time, after he finishes.
How y'all doing? My name's Mike Cross. And a good friend of mine, she's got her daughter at my sister's daycare. She's a single parent. She's got a chance to get one of these houses for rural development. If she gets it, she'll be owning the house versus renting a trailer now that she's paying about $700 a month. To me, it's a no-brainer. Having a chance to get a nice brick home in that area. I live out there off of 261, and there's plenty of small houses that are half acre or less. That to me, it's just a no-brainer to build these houses and let these young people have a chance to get a nice home. I appreciate y'all's consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Ross.
My name is Leroy Campbell, and on behalf of ABAN, I don't see no problem with developing these homes out here because I live right across the street and I use it for office. I hear everybody saying about being afraid of tractor trailers and stuff. I run a business out of that area. We pulls out there every day, early in the morning, 2 and 3 o'clock a.m. I don't see no problem. It's all the houses you drive. So I don't see no issue about they talking about pulling out and having an accident and all of this and that. And I don't see no issue with them building some nice houses out there for younger families, You got airmen that want some place to stay to be able to enroll their kids in school, be close to jobs and stuff like that. I don't see no problem with it. Putting nice homes out there. Everybody wants to develop and have a nice place to stay. I don't see no problem with it. Everything just about on that side is right now downgrade. Everything over on the other side, like even my place needs to be upgraded. Once those get there, I can upgrade as well.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Anyone else? And declare a public hearing section to be closed. Pleasure, council.
Mr. Chairman, I have a few comments to make before we get to that point, if I could. There were some statements made that I'm compelled to review since I didn't have the opportunity to question the counselor, but he made some assertions about constituents in my district that I have to clear up a little bit. One of them is that they are nice looking homes that will be built in the area. I appreciate him thinking that, but I think that opinion should be restricted to the residents who live in the area. It's not appropriate for someone outside of the district to tell rural folks in the district that these are nice homes. That is approaching disrespect. He asserted that the 2040 plan wasn't essentially in stone. So again, we want to avoid the guide in District 1. We don't want to use the guide in District 1. We want to avoid it in District 1, in the rural area. He also said that the development would be beneficial to the community. The community has expressed that they don't believe that is the concern. And I must tell you, that I heard the resident talk about living across the street from the proposed site. And I really wish that we could question that resident a little bit more, because there are some conflicting stories about whether someone lives in that property and whether the property is used as a business, and whether or not there's been another home purchase in another area. So I'm sorry that we can't have that conversation. But I will end my comments by saying what Dr. Span said. District 1 is interested in development. We're willing to work on development. We would love to sit down with Ms. Rudman and her planning commission to talk about how we want it developed. We are not opposed, but we are opposed to this location. And by the way, Mr. Leonard Hopkins, who could not be here tonight, he lives at the adjacent property. And Ms. Courtney Paget, who also lives close by, as well as Mr. Ransom Span, requested that I make those comments on their behalf. Mr. Hopkins is out of town, and Ms. Paget is not able to drive. She is a senior, like most folks in that area. Mr. Chairman, I appreciate your indulgence and patience. Thank you very much.
I got one quick question, if I could. Who, and I don't know how to get an answer, who is building these homes? Is it a local builder? So the products would be bought from within the county, instead of like some of these other homes that are, all the product is coming in from another county. And then my other question is, I heard it's a rural loan or U.S., what kind of loan were they talking about? I didn't understand. It's a USDA loan? Is that just for rural, just in the rural area? And is it an advantage having that opportunity for that loan? Is my question. I don't know enough about that loan, but does it make homes available for people that might not be able to afford?
I don't know if I'm allowed to. I can just answer that specific question.
Just as a tool, I mean, not just for this, but for other developments in the county. I just wonder how that works with the rural area.
Rural development loans are there to assist folks to be able to afford a house, and doesn't have the same exact high standards if you just went in to get a conventional loan. It's like a VA loan. There's some support and guarantee there.
You don't have to put 20% down or whatever.
Yeah, and then
affordable.
If you sell within 5 years, and you're gonna have to pay some back and that kind of thing. But it's a program to help people.
I'm just curious about how that loan works. Yeah. That's all I had.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate Mr. Baker's question. In fact, I like his question because it goes to the heart of what this community is saying. And Ms. Rudman talked about it as well. The houses that are being proposed are in the $160,000 range. The houses on both sides of the proposed development appreciated at a much higher value. And I guess my second point is I appreciate you being able to ask the council the question, but I certainly wanted him to answer my questions as well. But Mr. Chairman, I'll yield to you on that. You made your decision on that, so we'll move on.
If you got any questions.
Yeah, well, let's go back to it. So, Counselor, you talked about avoiding the 2040 plan. Have you ever, hold up, those are comments, I wrote them down.
Good, go ahead.
Yeah, I wrote them down.
Go ahead.
Have you ever suggested avoiding the plan in any other district? Yes or no?
No, I've not had that opportunity.
Okay. You also said that.
If I might finish my answer.
It was a yes or no question.
Well,
It
no,
was a
you
yes
asked
or no
a broader
question.
question.
It was
So
a yes or no
The
question.
answer is
There was a yes or no question,
in this
sir.
situation, it is a guide.
Sir.
It is not an order that
You
is
said
must
that.
be complied.
You said that.
And look at the other communities within a very
You said that.
narrow geographic area. They've allowed subdivisions of the same size, just down the road, just across the street. So it's an issue of fairness. You allow it across the street, but you don't allow it on this side of the street. That was the point of saying that you are allowed to vary from the comprehensive plan. Now, sir, do you have another question?
You said we allowed it across the street. Across the street from.
Right. Across the street on Fish Road and also down North Kings Highway, about a mile and a
And
half.
I'm just trying to clarify, across the street from this proposed property, you talking about those lots?
Right.
I explained that that was done way back in 1990, I believe, or before, and those people had to get, those were acre lots.
Correct.
And they had to get permission from the property owner
That is
in
correct.
order to do that.
Because there were restrictive covenants placed on those properties, so all of the subject properties would have to agree.
I just wanted to clear that up, that
Yes,
was the council's doing.
Yes, sir.
Counselor, you also said there were nice-looking homes. Is that a personal opinion, or did you survey the community?
No, I think that's generally just looking at the pictures, you can tell that aesthetically they're pleasing to look at. That is my opinion, yes, sir. And I don't see that that's a negative that I'm looking down upon the other residents of the community.
Counselor, I don't have any more questions.
Thanks, sir.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, before we proceed or vote or whatever, I'm really concerned because this county and the planning commission take a lot of time and effort and money to develop a comprehensive plan. The reason why they do that is because they want to do what is best for Sumter County and developing Sumter County. Yes, it is a guide, but when we start allowing people to violate that and just come up with their own reasons for doing something, then the plan is really no good. Why did we develop it if we are not going to accept it? That is my thing. Now, we have listened to a lot of people come before this body when there were proposed developments in their community. And we listened to them. And when they talked about how these developments are going to negatively impact their quality of life, we listened to them. And we have made decisions to not grant a request because of the input from the citizens who live in that community. This is the biggest investment a lot of people will make, is the house that they live in. And as they live in it, they develop a standard of living,
They look at the peacefulness and quietness of the community and they come adjusted to that. Then something comes along, it's gonna uproot what they're doing. I can see why they would be upset. I would be upset. I just recently was involved in a discussion of a project that was gonna happen on Myrtle Beach Highway, where an individual wanted to do something in violation of the planning commission. And we voted it down. So we must think about what we're gonna do. And the people that come before us, I don't think they're against development. They want development. But they want something that they feel is gonna be a betterment of the community and not take away from the community. So again, why do we have comprehensive plans if we can allow people at any time to come up and adjust them and change them or whatever? That's my take on it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
I ask once again.
I move to approve for second reading.
Move the table.
Second on the first motion.
I move the table.
I'll second that motion. The table.
We have a secondary motion to table this discussion with a second.
Roll call, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry?
Roll call, please.
Let's get ready to. We have a motion and a second to table this discussion. All in favor? All opposed? We have a motion and a second to approve. All want to approve this?
Yeah, second.
No, you did. We have a motion and a second to approve first reading. All in favor? Second reading.
Aye.
All opposed? Second reading fails. Moving right along.
Mr. Chairman, for a second, public, can you explain real quick what just happened there?
I'm sorry.
For a second, public, can you explain what happened just now?
Well, there was a
Table.
motion, there's a motion to table. There's a motion to table it, which means that it will be moved down the road. I'm opposed to tabling it. I want to get it over with one way or another. So we voted to table it down. Then we voted to, we have a motion and a second to approve second reading, and it failed 4-3. So that's where we stand. Moving on, ordinance number 21-967, first reading. Right.
Mr. Chairman, the council, I'd like to put together an ordinance to repeal all ordinances regarding the Sumter County Cultural Commission. We had that before you. There was a preliminary special meeting earlier. And during that special meeting, Mr. Bird suggested that he was going to make a motion sometime to prevent this from going forward tonight. So I'll be giving this time.
County Attorney, yeah, I will make a motion to deny first reading this time, to give them 6 months to a year to chance for us to reevaluate the commission, see if we can restructure it maybe over 6 months to a year time. So, my motion is a motion to deny first reading. Bird, you would deny and defer? Yes.
Second.
I got a second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor of denying first reading on an ordinance to disband the Cultural Commission? Please say aye. Aye. Ordinance number 21-968, first reading, Mr. Bryant.
Chairman, as you know, we've been directed by the General Assembly to revise our business license ordinance. We got in the revision late last week, and you have on your agenda first reading on title only. You'll have the full ordinance at the next 2 meetings. And that'll give you time to go over it. Quite frankly, it came in so late last week, I had a chance to review it thoroughly. I want to talk with the attorney who actually drafted it and make sure I have the same understanding as him. But we should proceed because we need to get this done in this calendar year. So we should go ahead and have first reading on title only. And I'll give you a more thorough brief prior to second reading.
Move to first reading. Second. Been moved by Mr. Baker, seconded by Mr. Byrd. Any discussion? All in favor of having first reading in title only on ordinance number 21-968, please say aye.
Aye. Chairman, there'll need to be a special meeting on that, and we can schedule it for November the 30th at 5 o'clock, if that's okay with you. Thank you.
No, we have,
Yes, that's at 6.
Okay. Old business, ordinance number 21-965, again, Mr. Bryant. And on these next 2 ordinances, we will have public hearings after the 3rd reading, not second.
Mr. Chairman, the attorney representing the project in this case, Project Honey, is asking for us to defer second reading. He was thinking we would have second reading at the first meeting in December. And after some discussion, what we came to, we would have second reading at our next meeting and third reading in January. So if you would kind of defer second reading.
move to defer.
Second. Been moved and properly seconded that we defer second reading. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Ordinance number 21-966, second reading.
Mr. Chairman, this is the ordinance to approve an option to lease property that's in the backyard of the library on West Westmark to a FTC Communications so they can build a cell tower. So it's just an option for the lease, it's not the lease itself. No changes since first reading.
Question.
Yes.
So you have drawn up the lease, how long is the lease?
I've not seen the lease, all I have is the option which is attached to the ordinance.
We see the lease before we vote on the option,
Well, I can tell you what it says about that.
I just want to know how long the lease is.
The option does not address the lease. The only thing it says it'd be $400 a month with a 2% annual escalator. That's the only thing I see about the term of the
I would
period.
rather see the proposed lease before I vote on an option.
I'll ask for an actual lease. And have that next time.
I have a motion to approve second reading with the qualifier that we have a lease before we have third reading in the public hearing.
So moved.
Moved and properly seconded that we have second reading. Any discussion? All opposed? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay. Mr. Mixon. Special meeting.
Mr. Chair, council members, good evening. Today at 4:45, council held a special meeting to get information on 3 topics. The first was in regards to the redistricting of the council districts. The council has now formally moved on with that process. We've requested information from research and statistics over in Columbia. We anticipate we'll get that information next week, and then the process will start in regards to county council districts. It's been 10 years since we've gone through this process. We believe we have the software available to us and we can do most of these adjustments in-house. So we've opted to use option 2, which is they will provide the data layers for us, and then we will make the adjustments locally as opposed to having Columbia do it for
we will proceed with that process. Once we have that information, we'll bring it back to county council, and then we have until March of next year to get this part of the redistricting proposal completed. Do not anticipate any problems with that. We also, based on the actions tonight on council regarding the cultural commission, conversations had by council and staff, and thus the recommendation tonight for denial for first reading. It is time for that proposal. Also, we discussed that staff cover the mini grant process. I'm sure there are a lot of folks interested in that. But the last Friday, the information was mailed out to all the applicants. We had 79 applications. 48 were awarded some level of funding, and all of the applicants were notified by mail. We anticipate that based on what we've received, we will allocate $500,000 as appropriated by county council. Staff is still in the process of reviewing information. Additional information was required from some of the applicants, at which time we will then notify council of all the different amounts that were applied. And that's all I have, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Nixon. Come now to reports from council members on other meetings, trainings, and our conferences.
Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to briefly acknowledge and thank, well, first I want to recognize the passing of Senator Hugh, Chairman of the Senate Finance Committee. And I want to acknowledge the work that he has done on behalf of this state, on behalf of state employees, retirees, but also on behalf of county employees. As you know, Mr. Chairman, county employees are in the same retirement system as state employees. And there has been a lot of discussion in recent years about ditching the pension plan, which is very important to county employees. And Senator Leatherman led the charge in making sure he protected the retirement system. And so I just want to acknowledge his passing and thank him for the very fine work that he did on behalf of obviously state employees who I represent, and obviously county employees who I also now represent. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. White. Monthly reports, Mrs. Brandon.
Council members, in your package, you'll have the COVID report as well as Public Works monthly report and information concerning the, let me get to that one. The chamber retreat, which is January 28th through the 30th. Also in your packet is information about a dinner for council members and a guest on December 13th. And several more. This is the one that if council members have not looked at, please review this. And Mr. Nixon knows that it's time to get started on the 2022 capital project sales tax referendum. And these are some proposed dates, time, and location to have community meetings. Because of COVID last year, we were unable to have the Christmas tree lighting ceremony, and this year it is scheduled for Friday, December the 3rd at 5 o'clock. We have just 4 schools because we wanted to be careful not to have too many children. We have Cherryvale, R.E. Davis. No, I think that's supposed to be Rafter Creek, but I'll get that straight. Lamira and Furman Middle School. Council members are supposed to attend the Liberty Street. Let me see if I can get up there. There we go. Liberty STEM, and tour that school on Tuesday, November the 30th. So you'll have your regular meeting, or special meeting at 5 o'clock, and then at 6 o'clock you go on the tour. And last but not least, the Sumter County October financial report is in your packet.
Mr. Mixon, County Administrator's report.
Mr. Chair, in the interest of time, no report this evening, sir. Thank you.
Come now to the public comment section with citizens desiring to speak. Please proceed to the podium. Address all your comments through the chair. You have 3 minutes. And now declare the public comment session open. Anyone wishing to speak to council, please proceed to the lectern. State your name for the record.
My name is Amy Vaughn. I am representing the Sumter County Geological Society. There are documents down there that date back to the 1700s on Sumter County. They are not being properly preserved. Ms. Blanding, do you have the picture?
I'm trying to get to it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
There are documents down there that, I see Mr. Baker. There are 12 3-inch binders down there that go back to Pocahontas, like Pocahontas. And from her comes the name Baker. There are documents down there and original maps from 1804 on Thomas Sumter. There is a land document, if you can find it, that is in a closet that has moisture and squirrels. And it's very heartbreaking to know that they're not being preserved and kept in proper environment. I do have pictures if they don't come up.
I'll find it.
Okay. I know from Mr. Byrd in Edens in Washington, y'all can't do anything, but if you don't intervene and do something, I know, Mr. Mixon, that y'all give them $5,000 in grant money. That money is being misused and not properly used to preserve documents. All that stuff is going to go to rot and waste, and it's very sad.
If you like, these were handed to me right before the meeting, so she'd like to, if the council members would like to see them after the meeting, I'll send it to you in your Dropbox. Okay?
I'll just show you. This is a map that you'll get. It is humongous. It's from 1765, and it's down there, and it's folded all kinds of crazy ways. But that's down there, and it's in this closet. It is also in the same leather-bound booklet, I don't know what else to call it, but there is a land deed from the King of England to Sir William Penn of Pennsylvania. And because it's not being properly preserved, it is creasing and rotting on parchment paper with the original King of England seal. There are documents down there on the Turks, how the Turks got here. There are maps that have the word Thomas Sumter maps, Benjamin Franklin. There are newspapers from 1896 up to 1911 that were donated. When I was there, I saved them, but somebody wanted to trash them. And how could you trash something like that? I mean, there's just so much history there. And if you don't intervene and do something, it's people are going to throw it away because they don't care for it.
Thank you, Ms. Bond. Anyone else wishing to speak? Council.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brenda C. Williams. I'm a physician here in town, representing the Family Unit Incorporated 501c3 nonprofit charitable organization. I, first of all, wanted to mention that our organization did put in an application for the American Rescue Plan Act funding, but we didn't receive any correspondence whatsoever, no letters.
In the mail.
It's in the mail? Okay, good, because I know, it was just mentioned that every applicant had a letter, so I wanted to make sure there was no oversight. We thank you very kindly. Secondly, I want to point out the fact that our organization is very concerned, and I know, we know, that the county and the city of Sumter have no real power in this matter, but the Manning Avenue Bridge is very, very dangerous in that it has a very big metal plate in it with spikes protruding from this metal plate to the point wherein cars traveling south on that bridge have often gotten flattened tires. The matter was brought to the Sumter City Council meeting last week by a lady who lives in South Sumter, and then a deluge of people started calling me and who live in South Sumter. So the South Carolina Department of Transportation engineers, unfortunately, have gone to that site and done some piecemeal work on that site, which is terribly unsatisfactory. I sent a letter to all of you today in reference to that. So if you all could just advocate for the safety of our citizens, I know that you all don't have power with intermodal commerce and interstate commerce, but it's a big one. We have an obligation for our people to be safe, and that bridge is unsafe. So I certainly beg of you, talk to the South Carolina DOT, Department of Transportation, specialists, and have those engineers go back out to that bridge. The bridge is supposed to be revitalized and rebuilt by 2023. That's too long. That's too long. We need to jump on that project. There is infrastructure money, by God's grace, to fix these bridges over 50 years old. Thank you very kindly.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Good evening. My name is Cheryl Moore, and I'm the chair of the Sonte County Cultural Commission. I know we voted to wait about 6 months to a year to revisit the disbanding the Cultural Commission. However, it is very imperative that we go ahead and hire someone to fill the position of the executive director, because we're all volunteers. We're very active, we are very engaged, we have a lot of events planned for next year for the Sumter community, and we want it to happen. We have big plans for next year, a lot that we're gonna bring here to Sumter. So if there's any way possible or anything that I can do, I have been filling the position myself. I have been running the small grant program, holding the boards, doing the contracts, whatever I can do to ensure that the mission is met. But if there's any way possible, I ask that if you can fill the position before, as soon as possible would be great, because we've been waiting. We were promised that the position would be filled by November of this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Anyone else wanting to speak to council? Seeing none, the public comment section is closed.
Move for adjournment.
Moved and seconded that we adjourn. All in favor? All opposed. We are adjourned.